In the heart of Salt Lake City, where the shadows dance in the flickering glow of streetlights, there lies a darkness that few dare to venture into. It was there, amidst the crumbling ruins of an abandoned church, that I found myself one fateful night, alone with nothing but a flashlight to pierce the veil of the unknown. The church had long been a source of curiosity for me, its dilapidated facade standing as a silent testament to the passage of time. I had heard whispered tales of strange happenings within its walls, of shadows that moved of their own accord and voices that echoed in the silence of the night. But despite the warnings of the townsfolk, I couldn't resist the urge to uncover the truth that lay hidden within its depths. As I stepped through the broken doorway and into the darkness beyond, a chill ran down my spine, a sensation that had nothing to do with the cool night air that hung heavy in the stale atmosphere. It was as if the very walls themselves were alive with a malevolent energy, watching and waiting for me to make a misstep. With a sense of trepidation, I began to explore the empty corridors, my flashlight casting long, twisting shadows that seemed to reach out and ensnare me in their grasp. The only sound was the soft echo of my footsteps against the cold stone floor, a reminder of the isolation that surrounded me on all sides. And then, just when I thought I couldn't bear the silence any longer, I heard it. The soft sound of a dog barking in the distance, its voice echoing through the empty halls with an eerie intensity. I followed the sound, my heart pounding in my chest as I ventured deeper into the darkness, the beam of my flashlight cutting through the blackness like a knife. As I rounded a corner, I saw him, a priest huddled in the shadows with a look of fear etched upon his face. He beckoned me closer, his voice barely a whisper, as he told me of the horrors that lurked within the church's walls, of voices that spoke in tongues long forgotten, and shadows that moved with a life of their own. I wanted to flee, to escape the suffocating embrace of the darkness that surrounded me. But something held me in place, a sense of helplessness that rooted me to the spot as the priest spoke of the evil that had taken root within the church, feeding on the fear of those who dared to venture too close. With a sense of dread, I followed the priest deeper into the bowels of the church, my flashlight cutting through the darkness like a beacon of hope in an ocean of despair. But with each step I took, the shadows seemed to grow thicker, the air heavier with the stench of decay and despair. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the darkness receded, leaving me standing in the empty churchyard, my heart pounding in my chest as I struggled to catch my breath. I glanced around, half expecting to see the priest and the dog standing beside me, but there was no sign of them, only the cold, empty silence of the night. As I made my way back to the safety of my car, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had glimpsed something ancient and terrible, something that had been waiting in the shadows for countless years, biding its time until the moment was right to strike. And though I tried to tell myself that it was just my imagination, that there was a rational explanation for what I had experienced, deep down, I knew better. For in the heart of Salt Lake City, amidst the crumbling ruins of the abandoned church, I had glimpsed the true face of evil, and it was more terrifying than anything I could have ever imagined. As I retreated from the forsaken church, a sense of foreboding weighed heavily upon my shoulders, like a cloak of darkness enveloping my every step. The memory of the priest's desperate whispers and the haunting bark of the dog echoed in my mind, refusing to fade into the recesses of forgetfulness. With each passing moment, the streets of Salt Lake City seemed to grow quieter, the once familiar sounds of the city drowned out by an eerie silence that hung in the air like a shroud. I quickened my pace, my footsteps echoing off the empty storefronts and deserted alleyways, each shadow seeming to shift and twist in the dim light. As I rounded a corner, my heart skipped a beat. A flicker of movement caught my eye, a fleeting glimpse of something lurking in the darkness. I froze, my breath catching in my throat as I strained to see through the inky blackness. And then there it was, a pair of glowing eyes, staring at me from the shadows with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. I reached for my flashlight, my hands trembling as I fumbled with the switch. But when the beam of light pierced the darkness, there was nothing there, only the empty street, stretching out before me like a yawning abyss. I shook my head, chalking it up to nerves, and the vivid imagination fueled by the horrors I had witnessed in the church. But as I continued on my way, the feeling of being watched never left me, a constant presence that lingered just beyond the edge of my vision. I quickened my pace, the sound of my footsteps echoing off the deserted buildings like a drumbeat in the night. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the silence was shattered. A low, guttural growl echoed through that darkness, followed by the sound of paws scraping against pavement. I spun around, my heart pounding in my chest as I trained my flashlight on the source of the noise. There, standing before me, was the dog from the church, its fur matted and unkempt, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. It bared its teeth in a silent snarl, its gaze fixed on me with a hunger that sent a chill down my spine. I stumbled backward, my pulse racing as I struggled to comprehend what was happening. The dog advanced toward me, its movements fluid and graceful, like a predator stalking its prey. With each step it took, the shadows seemed to swirl and coalesce around it, forming a dark, shapeless mass that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. I knew then that I was not alone, that whatever had taken root within the church had followed me out into the night, its hunger for darkness insatiable and unyielding. With a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, I realized that there was no escape, that I was at the mercy of forces beyond my understanding. And as the darkness closed in around me, swallowing me whole, I couldn't help but wonder what other horrors lay waiting in the shadows, just beyond the reach of my flashlight's feeble glow. For in the heart of Salt Lake City, amidst the empty streets and silent buildings, the true face of terror had revealed itself, and I was powerless to stop it.